Sometimes these guided meditations can just need me talking. Sometimes we can actually talk together and ask questions, just so you guys know too.
The ability to see outside my map. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Maybe it's increased awareness, but it's like to see past it, to push past it.
You can't push past it.
You can't push past it?
No, the ego will try, but you can't push past the map. You can travel beyond it, but you can't push past it.
Okay.
Maybe pushing past is an effort of the mind, trying to get beyond the mind. The mind can't get beyond itself. It's not possible. You actually can't go beyond the mind using mental faculties. It's not possible. If you have questions on that, we can talk. It's really, if you guys haven't figured this out yet, when you guys actually really open up, authentically go deep and ask questions, and then I get to give you really good answers.
So you said something in one class, and it had to do with what Gina's talking about. It's like asking something about expanding the net to where it's never been before. There was like thing you said that was super, super powerful. And I wrote it like 1,000 times, but I can't remember right now. Do you remember what that was?
You know those movies? It might have been in, for sure, The Hobbit. I don't think it was in Lord of the Rings. Maybe it was in Lord of the Rings too. But you guys all know those movies, right? You've all seen those movies where somebody's at an edge and there's these, I don't know what the hell these boats are called. They're like rafts, and you have like a creepy dude, either they're a skeleton or they're just an old dude, and you give them some gold coins and they pull you across. You guys know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Gina?
I don't really know what you're talking about.
Just say yes.
Yes.
Okay. You have to make me feel good about myself, otherwise I fall apart.
I will keep that.
Are you talking about the ferryman across the river Styx?
Yeah.
That's the Greek mythology.
Yeah. That's kind of what it's like, but without the creepy vibe, without like the Grim Reaper. I'm not saying it's a Grim Reaper, but some people look at it as the thought that's a Grim Reaper. It just represents somebody or something that can take, you can't ferry across the body of water, like the body of water from one part of land to another part of land. In a way, the land represents your map and the water represents like beyond your map, and you can't do it. The ego and or the mind cannot do it. It's not possible, but it will try. And the mind's going to try because the mind's just like, well, that's what the mind does, tries to find calculations and solutions. That's what it does. It's like a supercomputer. It really is. But the ego is going to try to, let's just do this, because then it's going to keep you within the mind so you don't actually discover the ego or that part of the ego. But I'll see if this is what you were talking about, Amanda and Gina. Sorry. So which might be, the best thing to do would be ask about it right now, which you are, and then focus on it right now, which you are, and be conscious of awareness itself. If there's any effort trying to do it, it's not going to happen. There's no trying for this. And if you can just visualize or imagine, this is all from the spiritual world. It's not from the psychological world. But if you can visualize or imagine that you have this mental map, it's inside of you, but it's also like outside of you. And it's kind of like a shape of a map, right? Like a rectangle. But your map isn't farther than the limits of the map. Does this make sense? Your map doesn't go farther than its own limitations. It can't. It's like your body doesn't go farther than your skin. Does that make sense? Even if you move your hand out, you can't go farther than the last cell of your fingertips. Maybe your middle finger is the longest, generally speaking, of your body. Top of your head is the top of your head. But you can't go farther than you can go. in the physical world and in the psychological world. Spiritually, there's no limit other than the limit that the mind puts to it. So you can ask for higher consciousness or angels, or you can ask the unconscious mind, but the unconscious mind can't do it. In traditional like NLP, they relate it to the unconscious mind as everything else, and it's not everything else. Because then if it's everything else, it includes a higher consciousness, and it's not. The unconscious mind is kind of like the void in traditional NLP, which means just like the unexplainable, you know, what is it? The holiest of holies, things like that. But it's really more, we technically break it down. So you can ask the unconscious mind, but the unconscious mind might get the higher consciousness or intuition to answer for you, which is totally cool. You don't really care. You just want the answer from the highest vibration, the most truth. So wherever your map is, but you definitely have to be like, you know, seated, relaxed, and things like that to be able to get this for sure. And 100% focused on this. To do this, it's the only way actually, but you can ask, you can't do it. Any effort in doing it doesn't work. It like just doesn't work. But you can ask to be, even right now, shown in this very moment, the edge of your map. And then you can kind of see some sort of line. You could maybe even see like where one atmosphere meets a different atmosphere. You could visualize it like that. And if you're in your head and you're thinking about it so much, it's just simply not going to work because you're not in the right location. It's like trying to open a door that's locked without keys. So you can ask to be shown, but you might not get an internal representation. You won't get an internal representation. You'll get an insight. And the insight might show you like somewhere in space, maybe, where it's like this edge of this atmosphere. It's like you can visualize almost the edge of your map being like the edge of the universe, if our universe had a limitation to it. And you can just see yourself where it's the known, and then see where the unknown is. And you could maybe dip a toe, even though there's no body parts where we're talking about. But you could dip a toe if you wanted to on the other side. And just feel what that feels like. This is like an energetic body, of course. Feel what it feels like to have the toe outside of the map. It's very unexplainable. Whatever you try to explain it, you'll never explain it perfectly because you cannot ever explain experience accurately to everybody. There's each experience, every experience is more than the language that is available to be able to explain it. So then you can dip a foot in, and you might realize or notice or even experience that there's really no life beyond the map, but there's no death either. There's really no time either. There's no thoughts. And even if you are, I don't know if I want to say lucky enough or humbled enough or worthy enough, none of this has to do with the ego's perception of what those three words are. But if you are humble enough, ready, lucky, worthy enough to experience just even this much, you might realize that it's super important to go beyond the great beyond and explore and you can even ask for more of your body, whether you choose to decide to view it from one point of view as your physical body, because you're experiencing something you've never fully experienced before, or your energetic body. It really doesn't matter because you're still experiencing the experience itself. And if you really want to have an experience, you can ask for your head to pop on the other side, where there is no seeing because there is no eyes. What really is there is only three things, or one thing that can be described in three different ways: existence, consciousness, and bliss. It also can be called the divine presence. It could be called God, but then you would have to go on the other side, the common human side, more physical side, where there is labels. And there are mental processes that are trying to understand the experience without really looking at the truth and doing the real work, which is to look at who is this that is trying to experience. What is this experiencing experiences? Is it not the same thing or matter or space or no time or energy that is on the other side, beyond the map? Which by now, I'm sure, you might have the awareness that all of you is safe to jump or travel or float or step or fly completely in, knowing that the ego could be extremely terrified because there is no ego there. And if the ego has its way, it won't want you or let you go. It really doesn't matter what this thing called the ego wants, because it's a thing. It's not real. It does not exist in the physical world. But it causes the most destruction and separation. And even though this is not going to be the final solution or the end all or be all for the full dissolution of the ego, you can even ask the divinity of the divine presence to usher the ego into the beyond of the map, of that space and no time. Of course, some of you are having very great mystical experiences. while others are noticing some resistance. And the truth is, both are perfect just as they are, which arises the question from the mind: how are two opposites perfect as they are? Which then, naturally, what comes next is the insight of God is where all contradictions coexist, which then, of course, leads you deeper into your breath, deeper into the presence of the divine presence in the present moment of now. Continuous now. Absolutely eternal now. There is a specific vibration that cannot be fully at this time quantified, that is happening, that you're experiencing with no doing of your own. It's an automatic happening. While it is ultimately true that the ego has an expiration date, people, really meaning the ego, knows this and can add more coins to the meter to create more time of its own existence. And here we are together, are collectively saying, aha, we see you. We aren't even trying to change you. We are just watching through the lens of intra-awareness, of inside awareness itself. And we're going to continue to do this. And continue to do this. And we might get off of our focal point at times, which is natural. But the time that we fall off the horse, get off the train, is going to be few and far in between, the time starting to shrink less and less of unawareness and more expanding, more automatic and intentional awareness of whatever's happening for you. Right in every moment and experience. And right now, you can think yourself, your true self, for asking for this experience, sending out the signal and receiving the call. The same presence on a specific, particular level inside of you, called out, responded through me, spoke through my body, transmitted whatever needs to be transmitted from where I am to where you are now, to receive what it was asking for automatically. And you can continue to expand, to allow the Kundalini to rise or fall as it sees fit, divinely guided. Whether you'd like to remain in gratitude or curiosity, or just simply surrendering into the nothingness of everything that is happening for you for as long as you would like, but not before consciously, on some deep level, recognizing the energy of light from the spiritual world has intensified, increased, and lasered in on you so that you can receive your truest self. Fill up its cup so that you can continue to emanate, radiate, and elevate your total being.